Okay, Rabbi. Everything is set up. Ready to roll. Yeah, I'm heading somewhere, so I'll join you online.
Okay, and how we're doing with the
So
battery?
So you were 80%.
80%. Okay,
Let me see.
so we're good.
Maybe still 80%.
You want to say hello to Yosef Tzaddik?
Oh, he's here. He came right on time. You getting ready for Rabbi? Hello, Yosef.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing? All right. Rabbi's coming.
Who does the add on? Daniel, who can add people to the group? The text of Daniel?
Daniel. Yeah.
Okay. You don't mind if you text me later to see if I forgot to send it to Daniel yesterday? To remind me later, if you don't mind?
Okay.
You want to send me a text now?
You want to give it to me? I can send it to him.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Yes, if you could ask Daniel
Yeah.
to add him to the group.
Who are you adding?
Who am I adding? His name is Moni Yosef Tzaddik. How are you?
Good, thank you, Rabbi. How you doing?
Baruch Hashem. I'll give you the number 786. Ready? 10:20. Joseph, we're almost getting ready. We're just taking care of something for the class. You got it?
It's okay. Take your time. I'm start praying also. So
1, 2, and his name is Salo Safati. SALO Fine, okay. Thank you very much. And you sent to the group that we're on?
I told him to log on.
You sent to the group to log on?
Yeah, but I was sending that you are on now.
Yeah, tell them that we're on now. Very good. Akiva, thank you very much.
No problem, brother. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for sending it to Daniel.
You otherwise.
I'll send him.
I sent it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, good morning. Okay, we're ready to roll. Okay, sorry for the delay. We have some people waiting in the waiting room. Let's get them in. Who else is in the waiting room? We got Joseph in the waiting room. Morning, Shmuel. Okay, we're on Mem Zayin, Mem Vav on the base towards the bottom. Morning, morning. Good to see you. Good morning, Joseph. Good morning, Shmuel. Good morning, Akiva. Okay, we have Mem Vav on the base, 46B to the bottom of the page. Taner Rabbanan, the last line of the page. I'm sorry, I might have given you the next page. Right here, this line on the page. Taner Rabbanan. Everyone have it? Taner Rabbanan. Ein mechabdin lo bedrachim. We were saying before, we mentioned about the idea of Zimun, that the Gadol Mevarech, the one who's the greatest person there, we honor to do the Zimun. We had that early in the Gemara, a little while back. Well, more recently, right before this Gemara, we spoke about Maschilim and Hagadol. We spoke about that when the person who's leading in the Zimun, who's going to be the Gadol in general, the greatest person there will lead in the Zimun. And we said that you give him the Mayim Achronim first. If you have less than 5 people, he gets the Mayim Achronim first, so he could get ready to look over the Birkas Hamazon, the Zimun. He's leading, you give him first. That's what we said. If you have more than 5 people, we said to let other people get the Mayim Achronim, and then when you get to 5 people, you give him the Mayim Achronim. So that's what we said. But again, in many places, people have less than 5 people doing the Zimun. 5 people, so then you would go ahead and you give him, if he's the first. If he's 5 or less, he's the first one, Maschilim and a Gadol. That's what we had in the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to talk about other forms of honoring someone. There's a concept to honor somebody, right? There's the Torah says, morning, Mike. The Torah says,
Good morning, Rabbi.
There's a concept that you give honor to a Torah scholar, to a Talmud Chacham, to an older person. Stand up for an older person. Someone's over 70. They come within your 6 to 8 feet. You stand up for them. A Torah scholar. So now we're discussing now what are things that you need? You're supposed to. That's called for giving respect, a kibud, and there's certain things that's not necessary. It's not necessary to give an honor. Some certain things. So what are the things that it's called? You go first, like you tell the gadol, you go the rabbi or you go first. Well, there are certain things that it's not necessary. It's not called lack of respect, and you don't need to honor the person to go ahead of you, so to speak, or to give that honor to the person. So the Gemara says the following. And the Meiri says, meaning you're not doing anything wrong in such a case if you don't give the person the honor. It's not called a lack of derech eretz. If let's say you're traveling and you meet up on the road, let's say you're traveling, you're walking, or you're going by horse, and you meet up on the road. So we don't say you need to tell the guy, and you see the gadol, the rabbi is right in back of you. You don't need to say, okay, you go ahead of me. It's not necessary to tell the person to do that. Now what's the reason for this? Some will say, if I'm going to wait for you, everybody's going to keep on waiting. Maybe if I'm going to, the way the language over here, he says, because every person's going to have to stop every minute. Maybe, the rabbi's in the back of me. I'm going to have to wait. Tell him to go ahead of me. It's not necessary, such a thing. V'lo b'ksharim.
Rabbi, what type of kavod are we talking about?
You go in front of me. To tell the rabbi his car is right in back of you. You don't have to tell him to go. Your car is right in back of you. Go ahead of me. That's not. We're going to see it. Maybe if you start off, you're both leaving together at the same time simultaneously. I think over there we're going to see that maybe you tell the person, the rabbi, go ahead of me. But if you're just traveling and then you happen to meet up with him on the road, and you see he's coming close, you don't have to say you go ahead. There's no need to go ahead and say you go ahead of me. V'lo b'ksharim. Similarly, when you're on a bridge, and the bridges were not so, it was considered a little dangerous going over a bridge, and there's no need to go ahead and honor the person to go ahead of you when you're on the bridge. V'lo, and then the Gemara says also v'lo b'yadayim mizuhamos. If let's say you have your hands are dirty, it's time to do mayim achronim, right? And your hand is dirty, and the other person's hand is dirty. And let's say it's not that the other guy is going to lead in the zimun. Let's say the gadol, the rabbi, is giving it over to someone else to lead in the zimun. Someone else is going to lead the zimun. So now, if none of us are leading the zimun, so if someone's hands are dirty, it's not an honor that you wash your hands first. You tell your person to wash your hands first, that your hands are dirty. That's not something that you need to go ahead and your hands are also dirty. You don't need to acknowledge that the rabbi's hands are dirty. So that's not something that you're required and you're asked to go ahead and ask the rabbi, go ahead, wash your hands first. So unless we said, like we said, if the rabbi is leading in the zimun, then you should ask him to wash his hands first. So therefore, the Gemara says these are things that do not require, for you to stop or to give him the honor first. You see, the students of Rabbeinu Yonah says that if, let's say, you stop on the bridge, and that also might cause problems by stopping on the bridge and not passing through the bridge. So therefore, better just you keep on going, and you don't have to tell the rabbi to go ahead of you. Now the Gemara continues. Ravin v'Abaye, and in Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, let's see what it says. Kuf Pei Aleph Sivav. Kuf Pei Aleph Sivav. So I think also, by the way, if you look, there's a Tosfos. You have the bottom Tosfos. Let's look back on the Tosfos of Mem Vav and Beis. You see the bottom Tosfos, Mr. Haber. A Mem Vav and Beis. Turn back on Mem Vav and Beis. Joseph, you have it. Mike, you have it. The bottom of the page, the last Tosfos. Mr. Haber, you see the right corner, right over here. So Tosfos has the question. We just said that when you're traveling on a road, there's no response. You don't have the responsibility to give him honor that he should go ahead of you when you're traveling on the road. So Tosfos says in Toma, you have it, Joseph? In Toma, v'ha'amrina b'Shabbos, Perek Bama Behema, in Masechah Shabbos is Levi v'Rav Huna v'Rav Chia habika'ozli b'Urcha. Levi and Rav Huna bar Chia, they were traveling. Kodmei chamrei de Rav Huna lechamrei de Levi, and the donkey of Rav Huna went in front of the donkey, went out first, went in front of the donkey of Rav Huna. I'm sorry, the donkey of Rav Huna. Good morning. The donkey of Rav Huna went in front of the donkey of Levi. So Rav Huna's donkey went first. So Rav Huna wanted to appease Levi, that Levi shouldn't feel insulted that my donkey went ahead of your donkey, that my donkey went first. So we see that it was a traveling, and he needed to explain why. Don't feel upset that my donkey goes first. But we just said that when you're traveling, there's no responsibility to give this person honor to travel before you. That's Tosfos' question. Mr. Haber, good question, Tosfos. Clear? Morning, Ariel. So Tosfos says, which I alluded to before, V'yesh Loma, second line from the bottom. When you start on a road together, you're leaving like one, we're all leaving at the same time, then mechabdim b'drachim. Then you should let him go first. When you're leaving at the same time, you should let him go first. But if everybody's going on their own way, and then then you met up on the road, and you decided now you're on the same road, there you don't have the responsibility to go ahead and honor. It's very interesting that the Gemara wants to tell us, because when you have the responsibility to honor, you need to honor. If you don't honor, then you're not acting with derech eretz. So that's what Tosfos said. Is Haber clear to Tosfos' answer? Okay. Let's continue in the Gemara. We were saying that the Shulchan Aruch, we're back on the Gemara Mem Zayin and Aleph. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, Siv Vav, says the following. Kuf Pei Aleph Siv Vav. He says that he's just talking about that even though our Gemara says that you do not give honor when people's hands are dirty, the rabbi's hands are dirty and your hands are dirty, you don't have to ask the rabbi to go ahead of you if your hands are also dirty. That's not what's asked of you to do. But that's only true if the rabbi is not leading in the zimun. If the rabbi is leading the zimun, we said whoever is leading the zimun, he gets the mayim achonim. He would get the mayim achonim first if there's 5 or less people. That's that point. Now let's continue in the Gemara. Top line of Mem Zayin Amar Aleph. Ravin v'Abaye. Ravin and Abaye havika azlei b'orcha. They were traveling on the road. Kadmei chamrei de Ravin lad Abaye. And the donkey of Ravin went ahead of Abaye. V'lo amalei nezel mar. And he did not say, you go first. So Ravin and Abaye and the donkey of Ravin went in front of Abaye, and Abaye was, let's say, the bigger rabbi, and Abaye was from the leading rabbis in Bavel, in Babylon, outside of Israel. And when the donkeys were traveling, the donkey of Ravin went in front of Abaye, v'lo amalei nezel mar. And Ravin did not say, Abaye, you go ahead of me. Okay, so he didn't say that. So the Gemara says, Amma, so Abaye was a little bit upset. Abaye said, Midisolek hai mirabona me marava. This rabbi, now we'll see, who did Abaye say it to? Did he say it to himself, or we'll have to see how. The Gemara says, Abaye said, Amma midisolek hai mirabona me marava. When this rabbi came back
Rabbi,
from,
good morning.
morning, Aaron. Good morning.
How
We
are
say
you,
hello
Rabbi?
to the child, that
My
nice child.
niece. Rabbi,
Rebecca.
Rabbi, Ishem Tov daughter. Mashiach.
Good morning. Very good. Good morning. Good morning. So the Gemara says,
Hi.
he says, when he came back from
It's
Eretz
tonight?
Yisrael, Abaye was concerned that this rabbi became a little bit not as humble as he used to be. Because if he was as humble as he used to be, he would have let me go first. And therefore, Abaye says there's something not right going on over here. That if this younger rabbi is not acting with the proper derech eretz. So that's what Abaye was concerned. And when they came to the entranceway of the shul, the Gemara says, Amalei, Ravin said to Abaye, when they came to the entranceway of the shul, Amalei Neilmar. He said, Master, he said to Abaye, Ravin honored Abaye, you should go first into the shul. You enter the shul first. I'm going to give you the kavod to go into the shul first. So Amalei, so Abaye said to Ravin, Arhashta lav marana? Only now when we come to the shul, you're giving me the respect and you're saying that I should go in first? What about until now when we were traveling? When we were traveling, you didn't give me the honor that I should go first? So Amalei, so he said, Hachi Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ein mechabdin ela bepesach sheyesh bo mezuzah. The only time you're responsible to give honor when you're traveling or when you're going into some place is if you're going into a place that has a mezuzah. If you're going into a room that has a doorpost, that the Gemara is learning at this point, a mezuzah. Something that has a mezuzah. Like a room that has a mezuzah, but something that doesn't have a mezuzah. You're traveling on the road and you meet up with the other person. It's not like you're going into a specific area. It's an open area. The road is an open area and you met him on the road. That's not a place that requires you to tell him to go ahead of me. That's what he told him. That's why I did not honor you to go ahead. I mean, similar to what we said in the Gemara before. There's no emechabdim bidrachim. You don't have to honor when you're traveling and you meet someone on the road. So that's why I did not ask you to go ahead of me. Now, one of the commentators say that Abaye thought that, sometimes you don't have to tell the rabbi if you're on the road to go ahead of you, to tell the rabbi to go ahead of you. But the person who, you don't need to tell him to go ahead of you, but you should be careful on your own to not to go ahead of him. So therefore, maybe that's how he understood. Meaning, we had a brighter before. They're trying to explain this is the question they're asking on Abaye. Why should Abaye be upset that the young rabbi did not ask him to go ahead when they were traveling? We just brought a minute ago. We brought a brighter that says that when you're on a road, there's no obligation. There's no concept of honoring somebody. So if you don't need to honor the guy when you're traveling on a road, so why is Abaye upset? Why is Abaye upset that the rabbi didn't honor him when they were traveling? Why is he upset about that? We learned in the Braita, is that a good question? Everybody with me? Why is Abaye upset? Abaye felt that the rabbi is not as humble as he's supposed to be. And he used to be more humble, and he's not happy about it. You got to be humble. He thought maybe you became a little arrogant, that he was upset about that. He was concerned about that. Well, why? The rabbi didn't do anything wrong. They were traveling on a road, and we say there's no responsibility to give someone honor when you're traveling on the road. So one of the commentators say the Piskei Rid wants to say that it's true, you do not have to give him the honor to go ahead of you, but you should have been careful on your own. You don't need to say go ahead of me, but on your own you should stay back. On your own you should let him go ahead. And therefore, the fact that he did not let him go alone on his own, on your own ahead of me, I don't have to tell you to go ahead of me, but I should be careful to stay back. That's why he was upset. That's how he explains the Gemara. And then the rabbi explained, the young rabbi says, no. The young rabbi said, I heard in the name, Rabbi Yochanan says that, and Rabbi Yochanan was the big rabbi in the Holy Land, and Rabbi Yochanan said that it needs to have a mezuzah. If there's no mezuzah there, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. I don't need to stay back. I could keep on going ahead of you. If it's not a place, if it's not an entranceway that has a mezuzah. That's what he told. So the Gemara shoots back. The Gemara says, what do you mean? If it has a mezuzah, then you got to honor him to go in first. And if it doesn't have a mezuzah, you don't have to honor. What about a shul? A Beis HaKnesset. Does a Beis HaKnesset need a mezuzah? Does a shul need a mezuzah? No, a shul does not need a mezuzah. Is that correct? If you look, a shul that's only used as a synagogue, it's not used as a Beit Midrash. If you go to the Lower East Side, the old Bialystok synagogue that's 100 and something years old, there's no mezuzah on the doors in the Beis HaKnesset. You go up to the doors upstairs, you go into the main shul, there's no mezuzah. Downstairs in the Beit Midrash, there's a mezuzah. And there's in the Shulchan Aruch, you should know, it's very interesting. The Shulchan Aruch has two opinions. Whether you need a first opinion is that a Beit Midrash also does not need a mezuzah. And the second opinion is that some say a Beit Midrash does need a mezuzah, and the Shulchan Aruch says you should be concerned that a Beit Midrash should have a mezuzah. What's the question? What's the question? Because it says "Uksaftem al mezuzot beitecha avisharecha," the mezuzah of your house. It's your personal house. But if it's a holy place, it's a holy house. That's not personal. That's not yours. A place that's made for prayer, a synagogue that's made for prayer, that you don't need to put a mezuzah. A Beit Midrash, since people spend a lot of personal time in a Beit Midrash. No, it would not be. Because if you would have a room, Ariel's bringing up a great question. If you have a room, let's say you have a room and the room has Sifrei Torah. You put in your dining room a Sefer Torah. You have in your dining room a Sefer Torah. You have to put a mezuzah on your dining room. You have to, even if you have your whole house full of Sifrei Torah. What? The question is storage rooms. Do they require it if you store things in certain rooms? I mean, I have to know what the Sephardi opinion is. We have to look, but we put mezuzahs on a garage. We put a mezuzah on a garage. People, we have to. I have to look up what the Sephardim hold. If you have a garage, you store your car in the garage. You put a mezuzah on the garage. On the garage. What's the minhag by the Sephardim? Do they put a mezuzah on the garage doors?
Yes.
Yes. So Sammy says yes. A lot of the garages, they don't have so many closed garages in Brooklyn. Everything is open. A lot of it's open, right? But we put them as, whether you make a bracha or not is a different question that has to be, some might say you make a bracha, you don't make a bracha, you have to look at that. But we put a mezuzah on something that we'll store. But just now, since the shul is now a Beit Midrash, people eat in the Beit Midrash. Sometimes you eat a little bit of Beit Midrash, it's more of a place that you spend your day. You spend your whole day, you learn in the Beit Midrash. So some say Beit Midrash is more personal, and therefore it would require mezuzah. You understand? So therefore, there's two opinions of a Beit Midrash, whether Beit Midrash needs mezuzah or not. Yes.
Rabbi, so if you put a mezuzah in the Beit Knesset, you don't do the bracha?
You don't do the bracha, and really you would not put a mezuzah. It's patur. I don't think you should put a mezuzah in the Beit Knesset unless the Beit Knesset is also used like a Beit Midrash. Many synagogues are multifaceted. In the old days, they used to have a separate place called the Beit Knesset and a separate place called the Beit Midrash. There was one place you prayed and one place you studied, right? Today, many of the synagogues, because of space issues, we use the Beit Knesset a lot as a Beit Midrash. And so to speak, like they have Suda Shlishit. Many shuls today have Suda Shlishit in the shul. That means they made it like a Beit Midrash. If you look, Rabbi Mansour's shul in Brooklyn, right? On Ocean Parkway, right? His shul, they have prayers and they have Suda Shlishit. He gives classes in the Beit. It's a multifaceted, it's not just a shul. It's not long. The Bialystok synagogue in the Lower East Side used to be only for prayers, period. The Beit Midrash was downstairs. You pray upstairs, and Beit Midrash is downstairs. That was it. It was prayers only. Then now they already have some classes in the synagogue, but that's the thing regarding. So that's what the Gemara says. That's what the Gemara says. For the language of our Gemara, look at the Gemara. Elame'ata. The Gemara says, Amalei, Elam, the Ispe mezuzah in, lesser mezuzah low. If you tell me a doorway that there's no mezuzah, you do not have to give honor. Elame'ata Beit HaKnesset u Beit HaMidrash. The less mezuzah. So the Gemara sounds like that's maybe why the first opinion, the main opinion, Shulchan Aruch, is that even a Beit Midrash is not obligated because our Gemara says Beit HaKnesset u Beit HaMidrash. The less mezuzah. That do not have a mezuzah, so it sounds like they're not required to have a mezuzah. But you should know, the question will be, if let's say you have other rooms in the building, let's say you have a room, a cheder ochel, where you eat in the synagogue. You have the synagogue, you have the Beit Midrash, and you have another room. So that's a different halacha question. The fact that the space like Knesset itself might be exempt, but it should not. I mean, I would think, in my humble opinion, it should not exempt if you have a room that it should not exempt that room from take a semi from having a mezuzah. So therefore, that's something that people have to realize. It doesn't. Again, this has to be asked. The fact that the Beis HaKnesset itself, the place where you pray, does not need a mezuzah. But what about the other rooms in the building should require a mezuzah? You have a place where you eat, it should require a mezuzah. That's what I would say. So the Gemara says, take care, you too. I mean, really, this is a question that, by the way, that this is a question that to think about here in this building, in the building that we're in right now. There's no
Rabbi, so regardless, you have to put a mezuzah everywhere.
What you say?
Because let's say someone comes, regardless, I think you should put a mezuzah in the Beit Knesset, because let's say someone comes and you want to study an hour in the shul, you don't know that there's no mezuzah, you don't know that halacha. So you must put for the safek, if someone come and study, at least the mezuzah is there.
You see, the question is, you're saying, the question is, did it turn into a Beit Midrash? That's a good question. At what point would the Beis HaKnesset turn into a Beit Midrash? That's a good question. Yaron, if they study 1 hour a week.
On Shabbat, the rabbi gives speeches. The morning we give halachot. So every time we study over there.
So the question is it real? Is that enough to classify it as Beit Midrash? I'm not sure that makes it enough to classify it as a Beit Midrash. So that's a good question. But you should know here, there's a halachic question here in this building. Because this building, this room does not, the Beit Midrash has no mezuzah, right? The Beit HaKnesset doesn't have a mezuzah. But the question here is regarding downstairs. Downstairs, the room where we eat, would be a halachic question. The fact that this room doesn't have a mezuzah, the Beit Midrash, Beit HaKnesset, it might not, in my humble opinion, but others might disagree. People have to, discuss the issue. Might not exempt. Well, I don't see why it should exempt other rooms in the building from mezuzah. But again, everyone needs to ask the halachic question. Okay. And anyways, I would say that the Beit Midrash, according to the Shulchan Aruch, in my humble opinion, the Shulchan Aruch says that a Beit Midrash, you should be nachon to be concerned for that opinion and put up a mezuzah on the Beit Midrash. So that would be, now maybe you shouldn't say a bracha, putting up the mezuzah on the Beit Midrash, because it's two different opinions whether you need to put a mezuzah at all. If you look at yes. Take care of Mazel Tov, Mabruk. If we take a look at the Hilchos Mezuzah in the Yalkut Yosef and Siman Reish Pei Hey, see what he has to say. Reish Pei Hey regarding Mezuzah. Hilchos Mezuzah. He's talking about the places that are chayiv in a mezuzah. So he says, let's see what he says about a Beit Midrash. But the Midrash, he says, Beis HaKnesset, Beit Midrash, he says, you should some obligate to put a mezuzah, since the Talmidim stay there from the morning till the evening. It's like a place of living. But see, Yaron, you see what he says? Some say they're obligated mezuzah in the Beit Midrash because the Talmidim stay there from morning till evening. But just to have an hour class might not do the trick to make it considered a place of living. If you're there the whole day or a large part of the day, and some say Beit Midrash are patur from mezuzah, and it's appropriate to be concerned to the opinion and to put up the mezuzah without a bracha in a Beit Midrash, in a full that's called a Beit Midrash. Okay, so that's exactly what we said. Okay, let's continue in the Gemara. Now, the Gemara continues. Are you going to tell me, Elama'ata, Beis HaKnesset, the Beit Midrash, the less than mezuzah, a Beis HaKnesset, Beit Midrash that don't have a mezuzah, hachinami de'em machabdin? Are you going to tell me that you do not need to honor? You're going into the synagogue, and the rabbi, and you and the rabbi are walking in. You're supposed to ask the rabbi to go first, even though there's no mezuzah in the synagogue. So what is it? What do you mean? What does a statement of Yochanan mean? The only time you have to honor someone is a door, an entranceway that has a mezuzah. What does that mean? Are you going to tell me that doesn't sound like it? Doesn't sound logical, because why should it be a difference between a Beis HaKnesset whether it has a mezuzah on the door or doesn't have a mezuzah on the door? You should need to honor the person under such circumstances. Good morning, Morris. So the Gemara says. So the Gemara says. He means to say anything a doorway that has the ability to have a mezuzah. The fact that you don't have to put a mezuzah on it, it's true. That's a side point. You're exempt from mezuzah. But something that fits the normal criteria, it has doorposts, it has a form of an entranceway, that is something that requires you give honor. But let's say you're going into a room and you're going into something and there's something, it's not a form of an entranceway. It's not something that's considered as something that's fit for a mezuzah. That you do not need to go ahead. Let's say you have an open, wide area. We're all going into this big area. It's no clear. It's not like you're entering into a room. It's like you're entering this major open area. So therefore, that type of area you will not have to go ahead and give the honor to the gadol to go first. Amar Rav Yehuda b'reid Rav Shmuel Berachos b'shed Rav. Ein ha-mesubim rashayim le'echol klum. The people, when you're eating a meal, see here again, we're talking about certain derech eretz and musar, how you conduct yourselves when you're eating a meal. Everybody knows something called derech eretz. Derech eretz is part of Torah. How you treat people, how you act, and therefore that's what the Gemara is now going to say. When you're eating together, if let's say someone is cutting the hamotzi, and he's giving out to the members of the group, this is how one way to learn the Gemara. You're not allowed to eat until the one who cuts the challah, he says the bracha. He said the motzi lechem menorah, and this is the halacha on Shabbat. A lot of times on Shabbat, the person says hamotzi, right? He says hamotzi, and he says the bracha for everybody. So the members that are at the table should not eat from the bread until the one who says the hamotzi eats from the bread. He goes and you say now. So that's why I would recommend when you cut the hamotzi, the one who's cutting the hamotzi, after you cut the first slice that you cut, take a little bit for yourself from it. And then after the first piece that you want that's going to be consumed, you should be the one first swallow, take some, put in your mouth, and then give the rest then cut more and give to the other people. Because if you're going to give the other people before you put in your mouth, they're most likely they're going to eat from it. Mr. Haven, am I correct or not? They'll eat from it before you ate from it. And that's what the Gemara says. That's not the right. You made the bracha. They need to eat from your bread because you had lechem mishnah, you had 2 chalos, and also you're the one, they're eating from your bread. Since they're eating from your bread, it's derech eretz that you should be the one to eat first. Similarly, on Shabbat, when you give out the wine, let's say if you're going to pour from the you're saying kiddush on the cup of wine, and you're going to go ahead and give out wine from the kiddush to the members, you should drink first before the other members drink. That's what the Gemara, that would be an application of this law. By the way, if let's say I'm going to give an interesting scenario. I have 2 chalos in front of me, and Mr. Haber has 2 chalos in front of him. If I say the hamotzi, Mr. Haber doesn't need to wait for me to eat from the challah, because he has his own proper chalot. He has 2 chalot. He has lechem misha. He does not need to wait for me. Because he doesn't need my challah, because he has his own proper chalot. He has 2 chalot. Similarly, if I have yes.
Why 2 chalot and not 12?
Because I'm not a mekubal. I'm not a holy man like you, Yosef, that has 12 chalot on Friday on Shabbat.
It's a serious
Yosef, stop with the Kabbalah.
He's so holy. I'm not there yet. I have to get there. I'm working on it. Takes time.
No, why not to begin with, and why not 12?
The halacha does not, in Shulchan Aruch, it does not tell us that we need to have 12 chalot. The Shulchan Aruch says we need to have lechem mishnah on Shabbat. A double portion came on Shabbat, on Friday, not 12 times the amount. Obviously, there's reasons and why you have 12, but it's not the custom by everybody. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and everybody has to enjoy their custom a lot. I think the Hasidic rabbis, some of the Hasidic rabbis have 12. They're into that also. They have like these little chalot, nice little chalot, and they have a nice hamotzi on the 12 chalot. So now, Yosef Rav Safra. Rav Safra heard the words of Rabbi Yehuda, the Kama, and he said, by the way, the quote that you quoted, Rav, he said, he didn't say you're not allowed to eat. Rav said you're not allowed to taste. Litum itma. He says you're not allowed to taste. That's what the rabbi said. So the Gemara says, the Mainaf Gemina, what do you need to correct and what do you need to say? The rabbi said that. It's pretty much the same thing. One says you can't taste. One says you can't, one quote in the name of the rabbi was you can't taste until the one who says Hamotzi eats from it. And the other rabbi says you can't eat until the one who says Hamotzi eats from it. And both mean, in this scenario, when we refer to tasting and eating, it's referring to the same thing. We mean you can't taste from it until the one who cut the challah starts tasting from it. So why do you need to go ahead and change and correct them if there's no seem to be any practical difference? So the Gemara says the reason why he changed it is shechayav adam. A person is supposed to say loma b'loshen rabo, to say exactly the way you heard it from the rabbi. And even if it seems that they both languages are saying the same thing, but if the rabbi used a certain language, a lot of times there was some reason why the rabbi used that language. So even if to you, it doesn't seem to be exactly there's no difference between this language and that language. They're saying the same thing, they're synonymous, but you should know there's a very good chance that the rabbi meant something unique, something extra, even if it's not clear to your eyes, but maybe to the next person. You know, Rabbi Feinstein, Rabbi David Feinstein was a man of not so many words, but every word that he said was measured. So when you quote, when a lot of times it's all in the word, even though something might sound similar, but a lot of times there was a deeper meaning why he used that word to say what he said. So that's why you got to be very exact when you're quoting your rabbi. Use the language. What did he exactly say? Because a lot of times people, there's an extra message within those words. Tana Rabbana. So the Gemara continues. Shnayim, two people that were eating from one plate. They had a plate of food, and they're sharing a plate of food. Mamtinun zeh lezeh b'kara. And then one of them had to stop eating because he needed to take a drink. So do you need to go ahead and wait for the other guy and stop eating when the other guy is taking a drink? Because it sounds like, let's say you're sharing a plate, you're all eating off the same plate. Let's say you went to a house and the host gave you a plate of food and you're the two guests that are eating from this plate. So you're sharing this food. So it's derech eretz to be considerate. It's proper etiquette to be considerate to your fellow man who's eating together with you off this plate, that while he's drinking, he's stopping eating because he's drinking, that you should go ahead and wait. Don't eat from that plate and wait until he finishes his drink. And then you go ahead and you continue eating together with him off that plate. That's what the Gemara says. And I'll read you the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch on this halacha, it founds itself in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Ayin. In Siman Kuf Ayin in the Shulchan Aruch, it says the following: Kuf Ayin Sif Beis. The name of the Siman in Shulchan Aruch is Divrei Musar Sheyinhag Adam B'Sudah. The proper, nice way to act Musar, the proper etiquette to act in a meal. This finds itself in the Shulchan Aruch, meaning Torah teaches us how to live as a person, the proper etiquette, how to act like derech eretz, be a mensch, as it says. And what does it say in the Shulchan Aruch? It says, we said in Sift Beis, when it says two people that are eating on one plate. When one person removes his hand from the plate to drink, his friend stops until his friend finishes drinking. But if it's three people at the table and one of them starts drinking, the two do not have to stop because of one. That's what we're going to see right now in the Gemara. Now let's continue in the Gemara. So the Gemara says, but that's only, let's see the Gemara. So the Gemara says of a shlosha, but if there are three people eating, ein mamtinin, they do not need to wait. Because you don't need to have two people do not have to stop what they're doing because one of them is drinking. Two people don't have to stop. If it's one-on-one, you stop for the other guy. If one of the three stop eating, the other two don't have to stop. And I saw in the commentators in Mefarshim that they compare it to Zimun. You remember in Zimun, if you have three people eating together and one of them finished eating, the other two do not have to stop to answer to the Zimun of the one. They don't have to. They want to go above and beyond the law, they can. But if both of them stop, then they wait, then they can ask the other guy, the third guy, to join the Zimun. The Gemara continues, Habotzeya, the one who cuts the challah, the one who's the botzeya, and that's generally, we said the balabayit, we had the Gemara earlier, that who should be the one cutting the challah is the balabayit, the one who's the head of the household, as we said in the Gemara earlier, because if he's cutting the challah, he'll cut very generously, and if you let the guest cut the challah, the guest might be concerned that maybe the host might need some of the challah and might not cut proper portions of challah for the members, so therefore the host cuts the challah. So, but say whoever cuts the challah, the bread, who poshet yadot chila. It is the proper derech eretz that he was the first to cut the challah. He's the first to go ahead and eat. You know, let's say whatever you eat together with the bread, whatever you that goes along, whatever food you go along that eats as an appetite or helps, you know, to help the bread, or to you know, whatever you eat with the bread, he should go be the first thing to have that relish or whatever it might be that you eat together with the bread. That's the derech eretz that you should do. And but if he wants to give honor to someone, to his rabbi, that meaning his rabbi did not do the hamotzi, because we said you don't. Let's say the rabbi's your guest, you don't give the rabbi to do the hamotzi. You do the rabbi, you give him to do the lead the zimun, but the rabbi should not do the hamotzi. The balabaya should lead the hamotzi. And but even though he's supposed to get the first course that comes that's eaten together with the bread should go to the one who ate that, who said the hamotzi. But if he wants to give it to the rabbi, or lemisha gadol meno, or anybody who's greater than him in wisdom, harashut biyado, he has a right to go ahead and do that. In Shulchan Aruch,
That's the halacha.
That's what it says in the halacha, and the Shulchan Aruch says the Kuf Samach Zayin. I'll read it to the halacha. Yaron, so Kuf Samach Zayin Sif Yud Zayin says the following. Habotzeya, the one who cuts the challah, he's the first one to eat the first course first. He's the first one. The says, its comment, because since you were given the honor to say the hamotzi first, and you said hamotzi, you will motzi the members of the group, it is appropriate to honor him that he should get the first course, eat first from the first, honor him to eat the first dish as well. That is the way the Bach and the Lavush explained the Gemara. But if he wants to give honor to someone who's greater than him, he has a right to do that. It's interesting, the language of the Shulchan Aruch and the Gemara. It sounds like if he wants to give honor to someone who's greater than him, he can. What about if he wants to give the honor to someone who's not greater than him? It sounds like he should not give that honor to someone who's not as great as him. he should keep the proper respect to the person. You said the Hamotzi, you should, you said Hamotzi. I wonder, if it also maybe you could say you said the bracha. So you had the kavod to say the bracha, Hamotzi lechem and haaretz, and you emotzi everybody else with that bracha. So it's respectful because you said the bracha, you should be the one who gets the first dish. So if someone's not as great as you in stature, you should not give it to him because it's a dishonor to the bracha. You said the bracha, you should have the first dish. But if someone's greater than you, then you have a right to give it. Maybe that could be the explanation. I'm suggesting why is the halacha saying you could give it to someone greater than you? And what if you want to give it to anybody? Why doesn't the halacha say if you want to give it to someone else, you can give it to someone else. You want to give the honor, someone else can go ahead and have the first dish, give it to someone else. Why does the Shulchan Aruch state, and why does the Gemara state that if you want to go ahead and give it to someone, cover the Rabbo or Lamisha, go himenu. Your Rebbe or someone's greater than you. What about anybody? I'd like to suggest a chidush. Mr. Haber will check it up. I'd like to take a chidush that maybe you do not have a right to give it over because it's not respectful for the bracha. See, sometimes in life, it's not about you. It's about the bracha. It's like, there was sometimes the rabbi sometimes is not, if he's worried about his honor, it's not good. But sometimes it's the honor of the rabbi that's something that's not him. It's just he's the rabbi and he needs that. And an honor is supposed to be respect is supposed to be given. So too, maybe that's over here for the bracha. Okay.
And Rabbi, what about the kiddush?
Right. So the kiddush, I think this is very good. Great. So we're going to look that up tomorrow. We'll talk more about the kiddush. But I would say like this. We're going to see there's a Tosfos that discusses about the kiddush and also about the bread. If you're saying Bar Priya Gafen on the kiddush, and you're going in and after you say Bar Priya Gafen, you pour out the people's cups, right? If you're pouring out the people's cups, for sure they should not drink until you drink first, because it's the same exact thing as the challah. You are cutting up the challah. You're giving out to the people the challah. They cannot eat from the challah because they're using your lechem mishneh. They can't eat until you have your first bite. If I told you cut the challah, you cut the first piece that should be eaten by you before you cut everybody. Don't cut everybody and then start, give out and then you eat, because then they're going to eat before you. You take first, you cut first. It's not a lack of derech eretz that you're eating first because you made the bracha. Eat first and then cut it for everybody else. So also I would say if you're doing that with the wine, the same thing. You should be careful. If you're giving out the wine to everybody, you make sure you drink first, and all the members should not drink before the one who says the kiddush drinks. The question will be, Aaron, if everybody has their own cup of wine when you make kiddush. If you're making kiddush for everybody, if everybody has a full cup of wine, then it's just like lechem mishneh. We said if Mr. Haber has lechem mishneh and I have lechem mishneh, if we each have 2 chalot, you don't have to wait for the other person because you don't need the other person because you have your own 2 chalot. But sometimes everyone has a little cup of wine, but they don't have a full cup of wine. They don't have a proper cup of wine. If the other member has a full cup of wine, did you ever see anybody when one person says kiddush, the other person has a proper cup of wine? Generally, a full cup of wine? No. So what I would say offhand like this: if the other person does have a full cup of wine, which I never see, then the other guy doesn't have to wait till he has a full cup of wine. But if he does not have a full cup of wine, and really you had the proper cup of wine, full cup of wine, a revi'at of wine. So I would say he definitely, even though he has a little cup, everyone gets a little ounce cup. That person with that ounce cup should wait for you before they drink. Now, of course, we try to give from the kosher bracha to every cup also. But sometimes you have a kiddush of 100 people, so not everyone's getting from the cup of wine of the one who makes kiddush. So therefore, but they should wait until I make in my shul on the Lower East Side, I make an announcement every Shabbat. I'm not the rabbi of the shul, but I am able to make the announcement. I make the announcement, please do not drink or make a bracha, don't eat or drink until the rabbi starts drinking. He makes the kiddush, wait till the rabbi starts drinking for the kiddush, and then you should know that when we have, if I'm at a meal, let's say you go to a simcha, you go to let's say a sheva brachot, and you have, and there's a kiddush, and they're making one kiddush, and there's a lot of people at the kiddush. And so what I would do is I would fill up a full cup of wine. And then therefore I would fill up a full cup of wine. I'm not making the kiddush. Let's say someone else is making the kiddush. But then it's as if I made the kiddush on the full cup of wine. And therefore we don't have to wait to get the person to say the kiddush. I could pour from my cup to everybody's cup. And I also sometimes do that with lechem mishneh. If let's say someone's saying hamotzi for a lot of people, until everybody gets that piece from the hamotzi, from that lechem mishneh, from those two chalot, takes a long time. So if I'm a member there, I will go ahead and I'll have my own lechem mishneh, and I can go ahead and cut up and give it everybody also, because I had a proper lechem mishneh. Okay, have a great day, everybody. All the best. A little practical.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day.
Yes,
Thank
have
you.
a great day, everybody.
Have a good
Thank
day.
All right, thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here, everybody.